In a land of military glory, the officer-gentleman remains a breed apart. And no one more so than this gentleman.
Hey there, welcome back.
Yeah, I'm a bit smarter than last time.
Yeah,
by mistake.
Very elegant. Let's see.
It's just not on purpose, I promise you.
I heard you.
The name's Cordingley, Patrick Cordingley. Rank, Major General, retired.
I think normally people are on at 17 past, so you're a bit early, but I will check.
That's lovely.
I'll check my computer.
Any chance for a cup of coffee?
Yes, I want to. That's true. How do you take it?
With war on Iraq, he's suddenly famous.
Thank you very, very much.
His expert view being sought from around the world. Today, in London, it's the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation.
I think there's a problem here, isn't there, of guerrilla warfare.
But at home, this soldier's soldier has created a major stir. He's dared to oppose Britain's war.
But it is a very large country, and there are...
My very first reaction was it's extraordinary to send your armed forces to war without the support of the British people. And in this instance, I couldn't see really where our national interests were being threatened. Certainly the country wasn't being threatened, and I also would then go on to argue after that containment seemed to be working. If you could contain the Soviet Union for 50 years, you could certainly contain Baghdad for 50 years.
Patrick Cordingley is at the heart of Britain's military establishment.
Therefore, for instance, that room over there, the dining room, is known as a coffee room, because that's where the business would have been done. And I have to tell you, there was nothing sordid like business going on here.
He's chairman of the venerable Cavalry and Guards Club, the preserve of Britain's fighting elite. But his anti-war stance has raised the ire of warriors past.
Particularly in this building, there's been a certain amount of disagreement about that. You know, you're chairman of a club full of basically retired officers, and quite a lot of them haven't actually liked my stance, and I can understand that.
Have they said things to you?
Tend not to say it to your face. You know, you get it third hand, and actually getting it third hand is worse, isn't it? Because you get it face to face, you can have a decent conversation with the bloke about it. Third hand is always irritating. You feel slightly challenged.
But with the onset of war, Patrick Cordingley felt obliged, like many in Britain, to swing his support behind old mates in the desert.
Yeah, lovely.
At the BBC, he's fighting the good fight against what he sees as a sceptical British media.
I find my position quite difficult because, you know, I've always been against this. Nothing's going to change that. But, you know, when it became inevitable, it was pointless banging on. You lose the argument. You say, well, I'm wrong, you know, the system's got it right, and away you go. And in heart of heart, you think, well, you know, I hope they have got it right.
This morning, the attack on Basra dominates the news from Iraq, and there are mixed reports of British progress.
But also, everything's mined.
The Today programme's host, John Humphreys, and his producer want to caucus before going on air.
From a military point of view, there is, you know, it's a perfectly normal campaign. It's now, unfortunately, switched to Basra being a military target, which is unfortunate. But I can see the inevitability of that.
But that's why we have to be sort of quite subtle about it, because we can't say it's going wrong,
Precisely.
because it clearly is.
Yes. Yeah,
but it's a thing that's surrounded with so many other considerations.
Yes. But
We can't actually say it clearly isn't going wrong, can we? We can say it's not a disaster.
But presumably my point is to put the, you know, it's not going wrong militarily.
Yes.
With me is General Patrick Cordingley, who commanded the Desert Rats the last time around, of course. And
Patrick Cordingley does indeed manage to get his assessment across.
Now this new operation, this unexpected phase, I think it is unexpected, is about to happen.
Was that all right? Excellent. Yeah, very good.
Thanks.
How do you think that went, Patrick?
I think it was all right, yes. Yeah. I mean, it was, you know, I knew my facts were probably, well, reasonably correct, because, you know, I'm tipped the wink a bit by, you know, what's going on a bit more. But one has to be very careful about what you do know.
Yes.
But
Yes.
I mean, I hope, did you listen to it?
Yes, I did.
Did you think it was upbeat?
Yes, it was.
Because, I do think it is terribly important that somebody's got to be upbeat.
We are violating Geneva Convention.
But British casualties, though relatively small in number, have preoccupied a nation already divided over the war.
It's dangerous ground, and a large number, and I'm talking about hundreds, I'm not yet talking about thousands, a large number would be a big problem. And I would argue that's exactly the same in America too.
Well, not only Americans, but Iraqi civilians too.
I mean, I genuinely think that's a very good point. I mean, I came back from the last one thinking, you know, we don't know what the figure was, 20, 30, 40,000 Iraqis. You know, what a terrible waste. Probably necessary. I mean, not necessary to kill that many, but probably necessary to have killed quite a lot to get the effect that you actually wanted. Yeah, but an awful lot of waste.
I mean, you know, there's a feeling of gloom, isn't there, in the country? I mean, we're having the most wonderful weather here, and people should be walking around smiling, but actually we're being bombarded with Saddam Hussein's very successful propaganda at the moment.
Are you feeling that this morning? Are you feeling a little less optimistic perhaps than you did yesterday?
I don't feel overly concerned. I mean, I think the problem where I lose optimism is that I, like everybody else, thought that, well, I say like everybody else, I, like a number of other people, thought that Baghdad would fall because the regime would have huge pressure put on it. It hasn't happened. I don't think it is going to happen. I say perhaps I am a little pessimistic because the next phase is not going to be very pleasant. And I used that firepower on that Iraqi position.
Patrick Cordingley has seen the Middle East in war and in peace, and he's deeply sceptical about the prospects for a United States-led administration in a post-Saddam Iraq.
I don't actually like the thought of the United States expanding in this way into the Middle East. I mean, I've lived there, and I don't think the United States recognises how hated it is in the Middle East. Before this thing started, it'll be loathed when this thing has been finished. Why? Because they've never paid attention to the Palestinian problem in an aggressive, robust way. And the Arabs can't understand that. They're perfectly happy to go and beat up another Arab country, another Arab state, Iraq, and yet leave the real thorn in the flesh. And it can only build huge resentment, and from huge resentment comes terrorism.
Patrick Cordingley's favourite painting is a lesson in doing the right thing. An injured Lawrence Oates walking to certain death to save the lives of others on Scott's expedition to the South Pole.
When he got up in the morning and walked out with the offhand remark, I'm just going outside, I may be some time. And that's really gets you there, doesn't it? That's a real gentleman.
The duty of the officer gentleman to do the right thing means much to Patrick Cordingley. But at what point does the human sacrifice of this war become too great? That's the key question now facing the retired Major General as much as the British nation.
Personally, say not isn't going to choose that. And you may rock him far or that
Accordingly, Patrick Cordingley has been in